Good morning, everyone. It's all over in Atlanta. Michigan goes down to Auburn 78-65. Not the outcome any Michigan fan wanted to see, and not the end that you want. The further that you go, we all know this, the further that you go in any kind of season, the tougher it is when it's over. So in the immediate aftermath, it could be a tough pill for you to swallow, especially the way this game went. Man, Michigan was hanging in there. They had a pretty good first half, and then Auburn did not have I would say that Michigan, not that Michigan had their A game. They had an A game there in the first half, but then they had some turnovers. And I thought Auburn had like a C. And then, you say Michigan had a little bit of something to do with how Auburn was playing. And then Michigan was almost got up by double figures. And right when that happened, I don't think there was a flip that was a switch that was flipped for the Tigers, but whatever it was, urgency, waking them up. They just, knew that they had to dig down. And while they were doing that, when they started to roll and get a little bit of momentum, I think Michigan started feeling it, and they started to fade, and that it happened really fast. And that's a bad combination. And that was, 12, 13 minutes to go in the game. Michigan is up by 9, and that's a long way to go, but you're like, they've got a shot in this one. I just walked through it a little bit. This it was a 1-point game at the half. Auburn was just 3 of 6 from downtown. They had 10 turnovers, a team that did not turn it over very much this year. Michigan had 8, and that was the thing. Trey Donaldson, I don't know if it was 3 straight possessions. I think it was. He had ones that you put in the category of bad turnovers, ones that we have seen and that have followed this team around all year long. I mean, they've had some games. Last game, they had a game against Purdue in the Big Ten tournament. There might have been another game here or there where you're like, hey, they're really figuring this out, but they never did consistently be able to take care of the basketball well enough where you would think that they would be a team that could make a deep run. Now, a deep run would have been like winning tonight's game. That would have been a deep run. Danny Wolf, you need a star if you're going to do in the NCAA tournament. And Danny Wolf was a star for a lot of this game for Michigan as Auburn started to roll and Michigan started to fade. Danny did too. So did the whole team. To mark it down, if you're listening to this, Michigan was up 7 minutes into the second half, and then they get up 9 with 12:26 to play in the game. And so if you just stop right there for a second, you're like, wow, 12 minutes, 12 and a half minutes, whether you think it's an eternity or whatever, more than half of the game. But that's when Auburn dug down and really started to play with this. Well, I don't know, I say a sense of urgency. They started hitting their shots, and they just fed the crowd. It was a big time Auburn crowd, less than 2-hour drive there from Auburn, Alabama. So, they were a number 1 seed. You knew that they were going to have a big crowd there, and the Tigers really fed off of it. And at the same time, Michigan, they couldn't respond to the run that Auburn made there. And you say game of runs all the way through, but it ended up being, what was it, a 20-2 run that the Tigers slapped on Michigan after the Wolverines were up 9, and that put them up by 9. Then they were up 10 with 5 minutes to go, and that was it. That was it. The dream stops in Atlanta, in the round of 16. So there was parts of this game where I was watching and I thought, wow, Michigan should be up double figures. If Michigan could do a better job on the glass, and that's Auburn was good in rebounding the ball. So sure, I mean that's part of the game. But there was the other part about the turnovers. Just watching it, you're thinking, man, if Michigan was doing a better job, and some of them, dribbling the ball out of bounds, inbounding the ball, throwing it careless. It was the careless ones. It's something that this team had all year long. It followed them as much as you like the team. They their middle name was careless turnover. It was just two middle names, a long middle name, careless with the ball, however you want to say it. Too many turnovers, and whether you want to say it was the biggest reason, it's one of the reasons, the rebounding margin, and then being able to match the intensity when you knew Auburn was going to make their run with being able to make some a big-time plays, and Michigan just couldn't sustain it. Maybe they just ran out of gas. They're up 9. Auburn makes their run, and so it's coming down to it. It's like you need to now execute. It's a pressure cooker. The Elite Eight is on the line. Michigan State, Tom Izzo's over there rooting for you, courtside. The pressure is cranked up. You got to make play after play after play, and they were making a lot of plays up to that 12.5-minute mark, and then it was just too much for them, and they ended up getting overwhelmed. So if you take a step back, if you're watching it this morning, you might still be a little bit hot, and I'll read some of your feedback. But if you're watching or listening to this a day or two after or whenever, I think most people will feel like I do, that this was a good season. It was a surprising season. Michigan played above their heads. They did a nice job. It was a entertaining season, and the future looks bright. You had a first-year head coach in Dusty May. I probably said it a half dozen times this season. I didn't think Michigan was going to make the NCAA tournament this year. So for them to make it, and then for them to be in the regular season hunt up to the last week, win the Big Ten tournament, and then win 2 games is really a very nice season for Dusty May and the Michigan basketball program. Great turnaround from last year. They had so many new faces on this team, a completely new team. I know that Cheddar was on the team, and Amari. Cheddar was kind of the same thing. Damari Burnett was a completely different player than he was the year before. And as I look at it now, everyone can come back on this team except Vlad and Reuben Jones. And you bid those guys farewell. Liked both of them. Jones came on a little bit late in the year. Not great player, but all right. Made a play here or there. But, Vlad was, you just wish you could have a guy like Vlad for another year. Guy's a hell of a player. I think he'll find a spot it doesn't matter. I think he could find a spot for a year or two in the pros. And if he doesn't, he's going to play basketball for the next 10, 20 years somewhere. And, he'll make a great living. And, if it's not in the NBA, then wherever, he's going to be able to play. He's going to do great. And hopefully you see him back in Ann Arbor once or twice down the line. I think, Danny Wolf, he's gone. Danny Wolf helped himself tonight. I think we'll hear in the upcoming days that, he's going to enter his name in the NBA draft. And so, Dusty will have a day to sit around and think about this one, but then it's right on the recruiting trail and the transfer portal and trying to replace Area 51. That's the job for Dusty and his staff. So that's it. Those are my feelings. You look through it, and in the end, it comes down to Michigan with a record of 27-10 on the year. So, some of the stuff that I see, some of the feedback that was going on during the game, you know, I get it. I'm not going to go through all of those. I went through it. Michigan was up 9 points in the second half, and then they started to fade, and Auburn took a big step forward. Michigan could not match that intensity. And when you have to stand in the middle of the ring, if you're using the boxing analogy, you have to trade blows. And they just were not able to do that. Eric calls it a great season. Can't wait for the future. You got LJ saying couldn't watch after they got down by 10. I completely understand that. Turnovers. Yeah, turnovers was something that was a bugaboo for this team all year long. How many times did we say it? We're saying it in November. If this continues, it's going to end up costing them somewhere. And then it was a big part of what cost them in this game. Oh, and Auburn started to make their shots, and Michigan did have to match them with their shot making ability. But if they were able to value the ball and do a lot better job in securing it and not have the careless turnovers, they'd have had a bigger margin. Hell, this it might sound a little crazy. Michigan could have been up 20 in this game. Man, they were playing well, but they playing well with the exception of dropping the ball. Justin asking if Danny Wolf comes back. I would put it at 90% that he would be gone. Dusty made a comment, I think on the Michigan podcast, that I don't know exactly how he phrased it, but something like he'll be looking at the NBA, and he's projected a little bit to be a first round pick. He gone, I would say, so 90%, that's where I would put it on when it comes down to the Wolf of State Street. CK talking about Trey Donaldson playing like that after all the talk, actually playing like that due to his Auburn history. He may be ruined after this. Yeah, I think that's a little bit over the top. I thought, Trey had that spurt, the bad spurt towards the end of the first half. He was doing all right to that point. And look, he shouldered a lot for Michigan this year as their only guard that you could really trust with the ball for the bulk of the season. That's a lot. Namari's a nice shooter. He can, put it on the floor and drive a little bit, but, passing and facilitating, that is not his game. That is not Reuben Jones's game. That is not Roddy Gale's game at all. And LJ, and Pippen a little bit during the season, and then LJ a little bit too. But, he was all they had. So I don't agree with that, CK. He's a tough game for him with only 5 points. But, he pressed. And, he was they needed him. And I think that I'm not making excuses for him. He needed help. And he needs help. And that's it. Malik wants to know about who they've got coming in other than Trey that can help scoring. Well, right now, they've got Oscar Goodman. And they've got Grady coming in. That's what they're looking at when it comes down to it. Winner's Grady. we'll see on that. They're going to need they need bigs. They need a lot of help in the transfer portal. And McKinney's their jewel. That he's the big signee that they have, and that's what you're hoping for. CK talking about Wolf coming back, talking about he'll be in the G League. Yeah, there's no real reason to disparage the Wolf of State Street tonight. It's not really about whether he's going to be in the G League. You know what, CK? He's going to be in the G League with a big fat bag of cash in his back pocket with a 3-year guaranteed for whatever $9 million. So go ahead, put me down in the G League. So he'll be there, and he's not going to be able to get that kind of jack via the NIL. So sound like you're a little sore, but that's all right. And say this is another one. Saying you don't want Danny Wolf, that sounds ridiculous. But look, I think, who knows? It's late. And, people are saying crazy things about, hey, look, there's a part of it. I know how it goes. When it's football and they lose and they go down, just everybody loses their mind. It's going crazy. And I'm in the same way. 24, 48 hours after the game, saying crazy things. And I don't even know if they're crazy. Just saying, I don't even know if mean-spirited is the way, just it's mad. So you say a lot of things in the first 24 or 48 hours. And then you take a step back and you're like, oh, okay, all right. You got to get to the off season. And when I was younger, I would say a lot more disparaging things about the players and the team and, things like, taking shots at them. And I don't know, maybe I just learned, I used to say some stupid things. So more stupid than people out here are saying. So I get that. Yeah. Sloppy play for sure. When you watch this game tonight. Yeah, Vlad did not have his best game. Vlad, this was the thing all the way through, and you saw it a little bit tonight. Yeah, Vlad's 7-1. You don't want him getting the ball up at the top and having to dribble down, having to start his move, even at the free throw line. He needs to be down by the rim when you're throwing into it. That's where he's effective. And too many times he was trying to drive to 10, 15 feet. That is not his game. That's not his game. I guess we're going to have to credit Auburn for pushing him away from the basket. I don't know, Michigan had him outside, maybe trying to get that screen and roll going, but they just couldn't get it to him, and that wasn't there. So that's it. JJ talking about 5 starters coming back. No, that's not true. The Wolf of State Street and Vlad both start. They are not going to be on this team. So, no, they're not coming back. Like I said, well, everybody can come back except Vlad and Reuben Jones. We'll see. I think it's a 90% chance that Danny Wolf goes to the pros. You can accept it, or you can take shots at him. You can hope that it's the 10%, whatever you want to do, however you feel about it. And, if you're mad at him, I get it. You're mad at the players. You're mad at the coaches. I thought Dusty could have called some. I know people have been on him. Dusty, I think, is a good coach. And, we talked about early in the year, I think, with, questioning whether he was going to get more into it and get after the refs more. That's obviously not his style. Could he, would I like to see him, crank that part up a little bit where he's getting after it a little bit more, I would. That would be something that I would like to see if I was talking with him. How about ratchet it up a little bit, the intensity? At times it seems like you're just over there like this. I'd like to see a little bit more. I don't know whether you think that's um, eyewash or whatever, just make you feel good. It would make me feel good. So, and the other thing, the timeouts. Oh, look, it's different when you're in the regular season. You want to see your team play through some things. You want to do it. There were a couple times when Auburn was making that run. He should have been calling timeouts. There were times that both Wolf and Vlad looked at. He should have been taking timeouts. And if he had to go back and do it, if he watches that film, I'd like to sit there and watch him and say, why wouldn't you take a timeout here? Why wouldn't you take a timeout there? And yeah, you always like to have timeouts in your back pocket. Then because you get down to the end and it's one possession game. You say, we burned them all earlier, but the time to take them, you could see it. I mean, I could feel it. You could feel it. Everybody could seemingly feel it except Dusty, who did not feel it. And then the Auburn tsunami just came over and it was over like that. Didn't matter if he took timeouts or not. The game was boom. It was over. And would they have been able to draw something up to? Did he take a timeout during the 20-2 run? Or is he waiting for the TV timeout? I don't know. Does he still got a couple in his back pocket? Oh, there's something there. Take a few more. Got beat by a better team. Can't turn it over like we did. Can't give up 3 offensive boards, a possession multiple times. Just didn't play well enough. Yeah, I'm with you. The banning the ball on the offensive glass. There were a few times that it got to where you felt like it was ridiculous. And it's just like with the turnovers. They're going to turn the ball over, but the ones that, where they're in Auburn, they had a few where they're cutting right to the basket. They're hitting them right in the chest. The ball goes out of bounds. So they had a few. But, man, Michigan was like, we'll match those bad passes, and we'll come right back, and we'll throw a bunch. And we'll make more mistakes, careless mistakes than you. And that part was too bad. That's it. Calvin. Trey is too short and slow, and he also does not do a good job getting others involved. We need a point guard who distributes and who can drive. Well, Trey is listed at 6'3". So, I don't know how big of a point guard that you want. Do I think that maybe he's 6'2" if they measured him? But so the part about him being too short, I don't agree with. I also don't know about the slow part. Could he be a better point guard in delivering the ball? I think that I would agree with that part where you say he does not do a good job getting others involved. I think he could do a better job, but I don't think he's too short. I don't think he's too slow. So, and the other part is when he's fresh and he's not shouldering 30-plus minutes a game, he looks pretty good. I thought that hurt him. I mean, he played 30 minutes again tonight. He pressed a little bit. Did not have his best game, so today's not the best day or the best time to be like, oh, Trey's all right, but I think Trey's all right. It's not about the team losing. It's discipline. I don't know. So what would you do different? Ewell's talking about the goofy ball handling, the one-handed passes, picking up dribbles in no man's land, etc. Horrible. Well, we've talked about it all year long, so Dusty sees it. Dusty tried during the year to have practices where they were just passing the ball. Dusty, at times during the year, he doesn't raise his voice very much on the sideline from what we see, but I talked to somebody that's been at the practice and saying that Dusty was, losing it on his guys at times about how they were moving the ball. at practice. And then late in the year, it was more, so he got after him. And then late in the year when, all of the coaching and everything else, then it was more of encouragement and, patting him on the back. And if you're want to know why, for me, discipline, I will go to the personnel that they have. Danny Wolf, every game, if you watch Michigan all year long, just listen to the announcers when Danny Wolf dribbles the ball. They are smitten. Oh, he's a 7-footer. Even they were doing it tonight. Oh, Grant Hill. Oh, you got a 7-footer. He's when the 7-footer's dribbling the ball and it's 5 feet off the ground. And he does do a really nice job for a 7-footer. What he does not do a good job as is being your primary ball handler and facilitator. He does a poor job there. And, tonight was one of his better games, but he still had one, he's dropping it out of bounds. And that's a problem. And the problem was, there was nobody else. Danny Wolf had to be the initiator of the offense. He had to pass it around. Yeah. Could he have done a better job not having the finesse one-handers or, trying some of the silly ones threading the needle? Sure. He could have done that. But what Michigan did not have is they had Trey Donaldson, who had to do it. It was him and Wolf. They didn't have anyone else. You see what Auburn had? They had Kelly, the Jones, CBM. They had 3 guys, all of those guys, and then their best player, Pettiford, who went for 20 tonight. That dude, rock and roll dribble, everything else, taking care of it. I mean, they had 4 or 5 guys, guards, that can handle. Michigan has 1 guard. 1 guard. That's where the turnover problem. So you could talk about discipline. You could talk about anything you want. They don't have the goods when it came down to taking care of the ball. You could scream discipline for a million years at Roddy Gale. That's not his game. I know he had a great game last, but, Roddy Gale, the ball's jumping. You don't want him passing it. You want him taking a straight line drive. That's what you want. You want him to pass the ball. You want him to dribble the ball. It's going to go off his feet. He's going to throw it into the stands. We saw it all year long. So you can sit around talking about goofy ball handling and one-handed passes. What do you want to do? Bench him? Kason is a poor man's Roddy Gale. Now, he could get better. He's only a freshman, but he kind of plays the same way. Straight line drive. The ball's a ticking time bomb when it comes down and in his hands. Reuben Jones, he's not really getting it done when you're talking about he's better than Gale, which isn't saying really anything. Because Gale's one of the worst in college basketball at handling the ball. And we've already been over Burnett. Great spot-up three-point shooter, and he's also a good straight-line driver. When I talk about straight-line driver is that you just get your blinders on, you take the ball, and you can go to the basket. What like these guys on Auburn can do is they're not just straight-line. They can go diagonally. They can pass the ball. They are able to handle it, dribbling it. Michigan can't do it. Yeah, so this is where we're at. The jury is out on Dusty for what? But whether he's a Final Four coach, Dusty did a good job. I would give Dusty an A for what he did this season. The pieces that he had to pick up, the recruiting was already over. All the top 100, they were all gone. So that he was able to get McKinney. And then he was able to piece together the other players that he did to put a team together that stayed up towards the top of the Big Ten standings to the last week of the season. And then they were still there. They tied for second. So the jury is not out, Ewell. Where have you been all year long? Let's not act crazy. This is crazy. This is a crazy post. And Calvin's right there with him. Ellis, people forget we left a scholarship slot open because we couldn't get a dynamic guard at FSU and Jameer Watkins, who decided to stay. So we did well with what we had. Yeah, they were trying to get the dude that went to UConn. They were trying to get a couple different guards in there late. They wanted Dusty. I think Dusty knew that. Yeah, discipline's fine. But I don't know. If you can do it, you can do it. Are you trying to make Roddy Gale into some disciplined ball handling distributor? That's not his game. I wonder if when they were watching film, it's a fine line to what was the pass that I saw tonight? It was Namari Burnett. He was coming down and he actually threw it to Roddy Gale. He was coming down. He made a sweet pass, and then Gale made a jump stop and threw it over his head. And it was an and one. It's like, wow. And like, is that discipline? Because that it worked. But Michigan throws a lot of passes where you say, I don't call it hot dogging, but they try to thread the needle, no looking, and they don't. If they were good at passing and were able to, have the chemistry with one another, you would see it. And sometimes it happens, but too many times, and all of them. Vlad sometimes, throwing big bounce passes in the lane. And he's like, what is he doing? Don't do that. Wolf is, I don't say constantly, but, he's got a little flair in here, and he threw too many away. But you got to let guys play. When do you say, hey, everything can't be, let's have a chest pass and let's have the bounce pass here. You got to have a certain flow to it. I don't know what you can say to the guys about valuing the ball. Hey, when you're out there just, dribbling through your legs and it just bounces off your legs and goes out of bounds, or you just throw it out of bounds. And then the guys that Michigan probably led the country in bad inbounds passes. Let's take it, and then, whoa, they're throwing it away. And the better the teams, the more they did it. Up at East Lansing, there was the TV copy. They're coming back. You're like, wait, how did Michigan State get the ball back? Texted somebody that's at the game. Oh, they threw it away on the inbounds. Tighten it up. Cut from a different cloth says Dusty did the best job with what he had. He worked a miracle in just one season. If Juwan Howard was still the coach, there's no way Michigan would have made it this far or done this well this season. Well, that's true. Disparaging Juwan today doesn't seem like something to do. Juwan made it to the Sweet 16. And Juwan made it to the Elite Eight and was a shot away, had three pretty decent shots in the last minute to go to a Final Four. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, the team completely fell apart, and he let nepotism creep in, and it cost him. He's got Jace running his mouth with the trainer and causing drama behind the scenes. When Jet was on the team, Jet was just trying to get to the pros and playing it like it was an AAU game. And, Juwan's just standing over there like, yeah, great for Jet, great for the Howards, but what about the team? So, yeah, we want to rip on Juwan. Let's do it for a couple minutes. Nepotism cost him. You want to know the truth to that. All right, I'm going to take a few more. Ewell won't stop. CK talking about Sam Walters transferring to Grand Valley State. I have not seen that. I don't know what was going on. He had a back injury, and we haven't seen him in weeks, months. Walters was coming along a little bit. For the bulk of the season, though, Walters really didn't do a whole hell of a lot. But then he did get hurt. So what can you say? He would be a question mark. He comes back, it'd be like, okay, but it's not something where we're telling the tale of this season. Yeah, he would have been a big body, and yeah, he shoots from the outside, so maybe. But it's just the maybe part on there. I think people put the Walters. Well, they had the injury to Walters. Like, okay. I think Ewell's just trying to be funny now. When he coaches that wear boots, these tennis shoe wearing coaches are soft. Yeah, I gotta say, Ewell, this is a pretty soft response here. Not all comedy lands, but first you were mad, and now you're going to the comedy route. Neither of them are working for me here tonight. But hey, what can I do? Ellis talking about Walters might transfer. Winters Grady would be his replacement, most likely. Whew. All right, we'll take some fresh ones in here to see what's going on. Ellis says Walters maybe would have given you threes where Cheese was struggling in a few games. Yeah, so I'll go with the maybe. Yeah, maybe. Ewell doubling down on his joke. It was funny. I don't have any. It could be the late hour. I'm not used to being up past midnight. It's funny because a few years ago I used to work the close to graveyard shift until 2:00 in the morning. So I've come a long way. Eric says it felt good to listen to you cover a tournament team again, Dennis. Well, Eric, thank you. It was a fun ride. I enjoy watching the games and then coming on in here and talking about them. Last year was painful. You don't always have to have a winner, but man, the effort from the team, it was the worst season ever that Michigan had. So this was a nice ray of sunshine from where they were at here. I appreciate that remark. Let's get up to the Y. That's where Walters will be. Ewell says he does like the team. He's just not impressed with the execution, and that is coaching. So the jury is out. Hey, I like you coming back and explaining yourself. I'm with you. EM asking about Pippen. Is he going to get that NIL somewhere else? I don't know. I think, was he hurt? This is the parts that I don't like. So all of a sudden he just pops up on the injury report. What's going on? And then, he's putting his name in the transfer portal while they're still playing. Can't he get his old man with his agent to say, yeah, okay, you're going to go in the transfer portal. Let's get some feelers out there first. Let's, and so he must have found someone. And Michigan may have had to, late in the season, have some meetings where some guys are like, hey, how much money am I going to get? I don't know at what point. Is it always, at any point of the season, can you ask the coach or the GM of the basketball program, like, hey, what am I looking at? So they probably had to assign a number to these guys. I know they do it in football. I don't know the exact timing. So they said, whoever. Let's take Peyton O'Leary, who's coming in. So they said, hey, Peyton, we've got, $75,000 for you. And so his agent can go out there, and he might have been looking for like 150. And so his agent's out there looking, and then he didn't go, and then nobody was coming up with the 150, and so he had to take the 75 or whatever it was. And it could have been the same thing with Pippen. Pippen could have been like, what's my number? And Michigan would have been like, you're getting an education. That's your number. Your number is get in the gym. I don't know. Your number is, I don't know if that sounds pretty harsh. Your number is 0. Everybody's getting a little something, something. The weird part about Pippen is his dad made so much money in the pros. It would feel like he would be haggling. I can't believe somebody's going to be dropping like $500,000 on Pippen or something. And hey, if Pippen gets $500,000 from someone after what they saw this year, then you just say good luck. Good luck to you. Big Meek getting in, talking about we need mentally tough players at Michigan. Yeah, when you had the spot tonight, Big Meek, it came at around the 12-minute mark. Put it up on the screen. Michigan got up 7 minutes into the second half, and then they got up by 9. It was 2 free throws by Will Cheddar. Bang, they were up 9, 12-26. That's when Auburn put their foot down on the gas and said, we have to get after this a lot more. And they started to make a search. They got back into the game quickly. Boom, 3. Boom, 3. Michigan turnover. Here's another 3. And next thing you know, they were back into it just like that. In fact, they took the lead. So Michigan was up 9 in less than 2.5 minutes. That lead evaporated, and the Tigers took the lead. Dusty, he should have been calling some timeouts over there. But when you're talking about the mental toughness, and maybe we get to the point where just Michigan didn't have it. Danny Wolf and the Area 51, and they just couldn't execute enough, and Auburn was just too good. Michigan got overwhelmed, and that was it. But yeah, part of that is mental toughness. You got to be able to dig down when the other team, he's just coming at you. You got to be able to be mentally tough enough to run something and stop the bleeding. You got to be able to match the offense. You got to fight fire with fire. And they weren't able to do any of that. And Dusty's over there when they're ringing up the 20-2 run. The game was over. And he was standing over there with his hands on his hips, thinking, all right, well, it's over. I don't think he called a timeout during that run. So I'm going to have to look through it. You might say, yes, he did. And you could be right. Let's look. Let's take a quick look at it. Let me find those Cheddar free throws. We got... Sorry, Danny Wolf made Johnny Broom, Mr. Jim. There's a Michigan up 5. No timeouts. Gale still, Michigan was up 5. They were missing. Michigan was up 3. Here we go. Broom, that was an easy one for him. Golden made some free throws. Oh, I'm going backwards. I should be going the other way. Sorry. This is made for bad. I'm going the other way. I'm like, well, Michigan was doing pretty good. No. After the Cheddar free throws, Pettiford, that southpaw, drained a 3 on the next possession. They had a TV timeout. Michigan was still up 6. And Dusty May made a bunch of subs. Gale was out. Vlad was out. Wolf came in and LJ came in. There was another 3. Denver Jones knocked it down. Back-to-back threes. The Johnny Broom hit one that put the Tigers down 1. Donaldson, Wolf missed layup. Donaldson turnover. Foul on Trey. They took Trey out. They took Cheddar out. They put Namari and Vlad in. Missed layup by Kaysen. Here's another jumper by Pettiford. That guy's good. That kid's good. Here's a Michigan timeout after they took the lead. So they had the TV timeout. That's it. Big Meat. You saw the disbelief on Dusty's face when he took Kaysen out after the rebound mishap. Yeah. Joe Nee. Broom couldn't handle his toughness. He looked tired. Yeah, well, Broom does that to everyone that he plays. If you watch Auburn, I mean, he's as big as he is wide, and you get him the ball down there, and he's tough to defend, and he can shoot a little bit around the ring. He reminds me of Carlos Boozer, if you're old enough. Big fella that you just can't do anything with. Good mobility. 6'10", can shoot it, and his shoulders. He's just, he just gets in there. They said it was a family, a bunch of football players, whatever else. He plays like, and he's 6'10", and he plays like Ray Lewis. He's pretty tough to stop. Boozer's kids are going to Duke. Yeah, I saw that. Boozer's kids is at IMG. They play on one of those teams down in Florida, and they won 4 straight state titles. But the other interesting player on the Boozer Twins team down there was Jason Richardson's other kid. Chase, the freshman. They got another one. Now he was for the Maryland game that Richardson high schooler was in at Michigan. So he came in. That would be something. I would think that he'd be going to Michigan State. Rip would like to see players that can actually make shots and free throws. Yeah, that would help. Yeah, look. That would help. That's going to do it here for this show. We're kind of going over some of the same stuff when it comes down to it, and that's where we are. So we got a final on the Purdue game. Let's check and see what's up. Probably Houston. Houston won it by 2. Ooh, 62-60. Sounds like a good game. So we are all set for the Elite Eight tomorrow night. Texas Tech and Florida. Florida looks like a hell of a team. I would not bet against them, but I don't know about laying 6.5 points. 6.5 points, Duke and Alabama. Alabama is going to be throwing up 53s. I mean, how many can they make? 20? And I don't know. Duke looks pretty good. You would think both of the 1 seeds, but this is chalk bracket people's delight. If you take the 1 seeds, you got Duke and Florida tomorrow. I would think both of them would advance. And then you got number 1 versus number 2 in the South, Michigan State and Auburn. Auburn's a 5.5 point favorite on the Spartans. I have to give it up to Tom Izzo and Michigan State, the way they played, the way that, and you heard it. I don't know how many minutes were left, 10 minutes. Tracy Wolfson was over there and she said, I was listening to the huddle. Izzo said, stop shooting threes and drive the lane and show your toughness every time. Toughen up, basically, is what. That is a little bit of paraphrasing there, but every drive after that, there were no jumpers. It was nothing but a layup drill. And it worked over and over. They just kept doing it. It's like, wow. That was a hell of a coaching job. And then 1 versus 2, and then you got 1 versus 2 in the Midwest. Houston and Tennessee. That'll be the early game on Sunday. I don't see a line on that. I would have guessed that Houston would be a couple-point favorite in that one. I think we've only had all of the 1 seeds get to the Final Four once. At least that's my memory. If there was a trivia question, how many times has it been done? I would say once. So that could happen. 1 versus 2 on Sunday. 1 versus 2 tomorrow, and 1 versus 3 as St. John's got upset. That's about it's as almost as chalky as you can get. 3 1 versus 2 and 1 versus 3. That's where we're at. So anybody that was filling out their bracket saying, well, you got to pick some upsets. You can't just all go with all the 1s and 2s. Yeah, you can. I knew someone every year that's all he ever did. So he said, I don't care. I'm just always going to pick the 1s and I'm always going to pick the 2s. I'm like, yeah, you're a real fun guy. They said, I win when I do that. Okay, well, that's his formula. Just pick all the favorites to advance. Oh, each and every game. If you didn't have to bet against him and you were, -4, whatever it was, not bad. So the basketball continues. Yeah, if it was if Michigan would have won the night, I've got one of those Mexican cane sugar Coca-Colas down there in the fridge, and I would have put it in there and I would have come out and it would have happened. But that's it. I don't mind a little criticism of myself. I think it's warranted. Big Meek says we can all be a little upset, but we got to be proud. The way the season went, we weren't supposed to be playing the best team. Yeah, well, that's true, but that's the thing. That the further you go, let's just say for a second, Michigan would have won this game. We'd have been talking, Michigan State. I think I'd have been here for 3-4 hours. And then if Michigan would have, let's just say they would have lost against Michigan State, it would have hurt more for the obvious 2 reasons. One, you'd have gone 1 step further. You'd have been right there on the doorstep to get to the Final Four. And, you'd have lost to Michigan State again. So it'd have been a double whammy. So not that it's good that they went out like this, but what are you going to do? I'm not feeling that consolation. I would have much rather had this 48 hours of fun leading up to the game. And tonight's game, it was fun. The inexplicable turnovers, not a lot of fun. Not a lot of fun, but Danny Wolf was getting after it a little bit. Now that was fun. Damari, did a couple things. I was like, all right. And Auburn was cold. Michigan was in it. I thought they did all right. They were at half. And then, when they're up by 9, you're thinking, can this really be happening? Long way to go. And then it just, the lights went out. They went on for Auburn. They went off for Michigan, and it's a bad combination when it goes down like that. Well, that is going to do it. I know I said 10, 15 minutes ago that was going to do it, but now that is going to do it. Michigan season ends in the round of 16. They lose to Auburn 78-65. Thanks so much for being with us all year long. I hope to be back in this very chair right coming up next year. Be on after every Michigan basketball game on the Maize and Blue Review. If you're someone that likes to talk Michigan basketball all the time, and football for that matter, I'll encourage you right now to join up with the Maize and Blue Review by going to michigan.rivals.com. All day, all night. They're over there right now talking about it. Oh, it wasn't the turnovers. Oh, it was the turnovers. What? Trey was pressing too much. People going at it. Hey, it was a great season. Dusty, what comes next? Let's hit the portal. That's what a lot of people, and I think that's what I will be looking towards the future in recruiting and the transfer portal. That's the one thing, man. You might not like. Nobody really likes the timing, but it's on. You could look right now and say, okay, it's go time. Dusty might be on. Dusty might have told the team, all right, great. Maybe it'll be chop, chop. Let's find out who's in, who's out, and he'll be on the phone. What's up? How much money you want? If it's coming down to money or whatever. I don't know. I'm talking a little bit silly, I guess, right now. But yeah, the money's part of it. So not that silly. Okay. Thanks for watching. Everybody have a good morning. Good night.